For thousands of years, the lands bordering the North Atlantic have bred men to go to the sea as hunters of fish. But increased efficiency in hunting and catching fish now threatens the depletion of stocks and the extinction of the fishermen, especially the inshore fishermen, and a way of life. Alternatives must be found so that our ocean may continue to yield food and provide a good livelihood for those who depend upon it. One exciting possibility is aquaculture, the farming of fish and marine plants. One country where fish farming is well advanced is our Atlantic neighbor, Norway. In this film, fish farms are visited at Norway and Sunndalsøra in the south of Norway near Bergen, at Sunndalsøra and on the island of Frøya not far from Trondheim, and in Herøy community about 60 kilometers south of the Arctic Circle. On Herøy, it is past midnight in late May. With the sun just dipped below the horizon, the night is at its darkest as the collector boat arrives at a small fish plant operated by Gunnar Vold and his partner, bringing shrimp and a small quantity of torsk or cod from nearby islands. More than 2,500 islands make up this community, although only a few of them are inhabited. The population numbers just over 2,300. There is a little agriculture and limited light industry, but the economy is based on traditional fisheries. Following long and rather dark months of winter, spring is a time of tremendous resurgence of life. There are many similarities between life in rural Norwegian communities and life in rural communities in Canada's Atlantic provinces. But there are important differences as well, many of which result from progressive social attitudes and a political philosophy that enables the people to determine and set their own priorities at the community level. On the island of Husvar, fish caught on trawls is split and hung to dry for African markets. The manager of this cooperative is also chairman of Herøy's elected community government, which controls about 20% of taxes and is responsible for many community and social services. In the 3 decades since World War II, the fishermen of Herøy have found themselves facing the same problems that confront their counterparts in all countries around the North Atlantic Rim. Problems of depleted stocks and declining catches combined with high inflation. Consequently, many have moved away to seek employment in larger industrialized centers. How to stop, or at least to slow down this flow, has become the major concern of those who recognize the value in preserving the quality of living that is to be found in communities such as this. Gunnar Vold's plant is typical of many small seafood processing plants found all along the Norwegian coast. Up to now, the plant has specialized in shrimp while handling small quantities of cod and other species. It employs Gunnar, his partner, a number of women from the neighborhood, and 2 men on the collector boat. Before they bought the plant a few years ago, Gunnar fished on large boats in northern waters and on the banks off Newfoundland. His father, Herlog, like many others, still spends several months every year away from home fishing. In recent years, however, the Volds have also become farmers, not of cattle or sheep, nor of crops planted in the soil, but fish farmers, specifically farmers of salmon. When not fishing, Herlog enjoys hand-feeding the several thousand salmon kept in floating sea cages. When he is away, Gunnar looks after things himself. There was no fish farming on Herøy until 1973, when an innovative concept was introduced by Ragnar Sjavik, a sailor, teacher, turned development worker in the employ of the community.
I myself have been interested in fish farming for many years, and when I came to Herøy community, I saw that this community must have many opportunities to fish farming. There's many islands, and narrow sounds, clear water, and not ice in winter time. And the people in that community know to work on sea in boats. We thought we must try to create a possibility for ordinary people to be fish farmers. We found that it need much money, but in which way shall we get this money?
The first step was the organization of a type of cooperative named Herøy Laksoppdrett, or Herøy Salmon Farm, in which the community itself invested 51%. The remaining shares were purchased by 72 investors from the community, yet no one shareholder controls more than 10% of votes. Approximately $314,000, backed by government guarantees, was borrowed from the bank. The cooperative itself began 1 fish farm, and 8 others were set up by individuals or families such as the Volds, or, as in Ragnar's case, with partners, who shared not only the investment, but also the work. Smolt were purchased, as well as food for the many months of growth. All of the farmed salmon is marketed by Herøy Laksoppdrett, which then receives from the farmers repayment of the loans and interest, as well as a small amount extra to cover operating expenses and to reduce the amount borrowed annually from the bank. In this way, ordinary fishermen and others with limited resources have been able to begin farming salmon.
We mustn't do it too easy for them. They must self-build their own cages, and everything they must cost themselves without smolt and food. In that way, we mean to say that you must think about what you have to do. You must loan or save your own money to build the cages, the nets. I think that is very important to get the right people to be farmers. Most of them have been fishermen before. In the beginning, some of them was fishing beside farming because it's very difficult the first year. It's take 1.5 to 2 years from the first fish is put into the cages until it is sold. They must have income to live, and therefore they have been fishing, carpenting, and different other things the meantime.
I think in the beginning I could not see much future in it because there were so many people saying it's nothing. But now the situation is much better and I believe in it. How would you compare fish farming as a way of life with fishing? It seems to be very good, especially in my situation. My son takes care of the fish farm when I'm away, and when I come home, I can look after my part of the work.
Gunnar Vold, siden at tilgangen på rekke litt forskjellig og ofte dårlig, tror du det...
You say, Gunnar, that the supply of shrimp to your plant is too low. Do you think that fish farming could be important to the plant and give you a better income? To have the fish farm, as well as the plant, will provide a steady income, so that the employment for the women will be more secure.
Brood stocks collected from many different rivers are held in tanks on the large fish genetic station at Sunndalsøra, at the bottom of one of the fjords that run deep into the country from the sea. The manager of the station is Arne Kittelsen.
This fish genetic station belongs to the Agriculture College of Norway, and our institute works with genetics again. This station will be for the first year of the salmon's life. We hatch the eggs, feed the small fish here, bring it in saltwater circular dams, and sell the fish to breeders along the coast again. That's in very short what we are doing. And we are aiming at improving the traits on the salmon for the guy working with feeding the fish in the sea units. Beside the salmon we have the rainbow. We have been working with rainbow since 1968. It's the family work again. And then we have sea trout, we have Arctic char, some humpbacks, and the crosses between those species again. The first meetings we had in '69, it was some very few, 2 or 3 breeders dealing with saltwater. And as you know now, it's hundreds of those scattered along the Norwegian coast. So it has just been a blooming business. It was just a gold rush, a Klondike in '71. Everyone would like to start his own farm, and I would dare to say with very, very little knowledge about how to handle a fish. And very often you could just hear the question raised, how much feed am I going to give the fish? And if that was solved, it was okay. It's much more to breeding fish than how much to feed it. Every year in May and the first part of June, we bring our fish out to local breeders, sometimes with airplanes, sometimes with cars, and mostly with boats again.
Fish farming is not quite new in Norway. It has been tried during a lot of years, but farming with salmon is very new. I think it's not more than 7 or 8 years ago since the first farming of salmon was done in Norway. And we have much to learn.
when we have delivered the fish at the local breeder, it's not the end of our work with the fish. 2 or 3 times during feeding the fish in the floating units, it's over a period on 2 years as usually, we'll come back and take the samples. So then again we have the samples mostly from the weight increase from different rivers, from different families and so on. And the data are put into the computers, and then again we try to take out the rate male and female for the next year's production. That's an important step in our genetic work.
As soon as the smolt are in the hold filled with circulating salt water, the Gulla Fjord departs on its 36-hour steam down the fjord to the sea and north to Herøy.
I think in a few years, salmon is not a wild fish for farmers, but more like rainbow trout today. And I think we have a better material in a few years. It's need a coordination among the smolt farmers, the hatcheries, to get enough smolt and good smolt. It's not true today.
Upon arrival, the smolt are counted out by hand as they go into the cage. Unlike rainbow trout, which are less expensive and sold by kilo weight, each salmon smolt costs the farmers between 5 and 6 Norwegian kroner, just over $1.
This year we want to put in our cages about 6,500 smolts, but we can't get more than 5,000. I think with 5,000 smolt, an average farm, we could have about 10-12 tons of produced salmon.
Olav Olsen moved to Herøy several years ago. He had given up fishing to become a carpenter, but found it necessary to move about to find steady work. When Herøy Lakseoppdrett began, Olav became a full-time fish farmer, and he and his wife Esther now make a very comfortable living from it.
Det var jo den første tiden at det ble noe utenom det man drev på med før da.
At the beginning, fish farming was quite a new thing for us, but we hoped that if we could succeed in it, we could have it as our only livelihood. We hoped that fish farming would give us enough income for a good living, and we can now see that it has. We are very satisfied with the way it has worked out.
Du har vært flere plasser rundt omkring og I grunnen sett forskjellige miljø og andre plasser.
After traveling around and seeing different places, what is the reason you settled down and built your home in the community of Herøy?
Ja, akkurat noen spesiell grunn til det, det var det vel ikke, men...
I don't know if there's any special reason, but when we moved around as we did, we found out that this is just as good a place as any other to live.
Herøy kommune har jo vært en god kommune å bo I, og det viser jo de tiltak som kommunen har.
You can clearly see why if you look at all the things the community has gone ahead with. The schools, health services, communications, interest in fish farming, and many other things. We live in a forward-looking community.
Traditions are still evident in Herøy as well, although with changing values, some are no longer as strong as they once were. 3 times each day, the ferry calls in at the islands. Some residents even commute to work in the nearest mainland town over an hour away.
Ja, du sier dette her at det ikke er verre å være i Herøy eller andre plasser. Vi kan vel si at Herøy, som mange andre utkantsplasser, de savner jo en god del av de, skal vi si, servicetiltak.
Although Herøy may be as good as any other place to live, we must realize that we can't get all the things that bigger places have, such as cultural opportunities, theaters, restaurants, and so on.
Det har man jo ikke, og da kan man si at
However, there seem to be so many positive qualities that what we do not have doesn't mean so much.
Ja, det kan man jo også si, men det beror jo på hvor interessen ligger. Noen kanskje de...
It depends on what people are interested in. Some like to go to theaters and things like that, while others are satisfied to do without.
Jeg vet ikke hva man skal si om det. Vi har noe...
I don't quite know what to say. How do you feel about it, Esther? I don't miss those things at all. What is valuable for me is being able to travel around these islands and enjoy the natural beauties that we have here. School in Herøy goes from grades 1 to 9, but when they get older, the children must go away to high school. That is the biggest problem, that the older children have to stay away from home to get their education. But aside from that, I like to live in Herøy very much.
Not far from the school is a small boatyard which is active year-round, mainly repairing and refitting fishing and small cargo boats for the islands. About 20 men are employed. It often rains during the fall and winter, so the good days are welcome, especially when there is outside work to be done. But even then, the daylight hours are few as the sun remains low, just moving along the tops of distant mountains and casting long shadows for most of the day. By 4 o'clock on this November day, it will be nearly dark.
Late autumn and winter time is time for killing and selling fish. It's a busy time. I think during the winter 76-77 there will be killed and packed about 100 tons from all the farmers in Herøy. It's a lot of fish. It's a busy time. They are owner of their farm, their cages, everything. They own it themselves. There is a cooperation between Herøy Lakseoppdrett and the farmers, but maybe a little between the farmers too. They help each other in changing nets, in killing and packing fish, and in that way they make it easier for each other to work on the farm, because it's not that easy work. It's very hard many times, very hard. It's need more than 2 hands. At the beginning we was feeding our fish with fresh or wet food. As soon as all those farmers came into Herøy Lakseoppdrett, we had not enough capacity to make the wet food for them, and we began to feed with dry food pellets. There's not so many people who have tried that food on big salmon, but it's worked very well. It's gave a good quality and good colored fish. I think if each farmer should sell his own salmon, it would soon be disagreement between them. I'm afraid so. But in that way, we sold the fish during the winter, and at the end of the year, at the end of the season, we give each farmer the same price, help us to hold the all together, no split it up in disagreement. The 2 first years we had rainbow trout. The first year the prices was very low. The next year the prices was better. But in the northern part of Norway, I don't think the rainbow trout grow so fast as in southern part of Norway. I think it's more safe to have salmon or rainbow. I think we can earn a lot more money with salmon.
It is the first kill of the season, and the salmon will be shipped by air to a buyer in Oslo. The price offered for round fish is as good as it would be for split, and by selling round, labor is greatly reduced, and there is no weight loss to put the fish into a lower price category.
Scientists' support is very important. Farming is very new. There is many things we don't know. It's important for us to have information from the research going on. And Dag Møller has been in Herøy and is interested to give information and help to us.
The fish farming business started not with the scientists. They started with the fish farmer. So the scientists, to upgrade themselves, they have to go to the fish farmers and learn. And we did that for several years. And I think that today, I will not say that we are ahead of the fish farmers. I think that many of the fish farmers know much more about fish farming than we do. But I think that we are just at the same stage, more or less. And I think that we are working into more or less special areas now. Smoltification, we are talking about feed, talking about genetic improvement, which a fish farmer can do. We have to do the experiments, we have to give the results to the fish farmer, and we have to do that anyway in the near future without any advisory group, without any consultant. You have all kinds of consultants firms. We don't have that, not in fish farming anyway. So, but from 2-3 years now, I think we will have an advisory group type of man, which will take that work. But I don't think that the scientist will be in the tower. I don't think so.